Okay, welcome everyone, in person and virtually. Everybody, I'm very happy to see everyone. We have something really awesome happening today, because, welcome everyone, welcome. Because what we have going on here today is that we have a tremendous influx of hashgacha pratis, divine providence here, because two of the concepts that we're going to see in today's shiur, we have recently seen in today's sorry, a bunch of people just walked in. We have recently seen in the other shiur, two of the concepts that we're going to see today, we just talked about in the Monday night shiur. So whenever you see two different parts of your learning are like coming together like this, it's considered to be like divine assistance in our learning. So that's one aspect. And the second thing is we see also that exactly what the beginning of this Torah is talking about is this week's Parsha, right? So if you remember, we started off this Torah with the pasuk, when you light up the candles. This week's Parsha is this. So it happens to be, right? Obviously there's no coincidences. Happens to be we're starting this Torah basically on the very week that it's the Parsha of that pasuk. Amazing. And we're going to see two concepts starting right when we start learning today that we saw in the Monday night class about Sukkah and free will. So all together, totally amazing. Thank you to Ribono Shel Olam for bringing us together. Okay, nice to see some more people in person. It's been a while, and wow, a special guest from America here. BC. Wow, BC? DC, right? I thought so. America, yeah. Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Cousin.
Yes,
Michelle.
Yeah.
Cousin Michelle. Welcome, Cousin Michelle. Okay. Okay, and everybody, welcome. Okay, so let's get going. All right, so last week we started this Torah, and we'll do a very quick recap of what we saw last week. So we took this pasuk of B'haloscha Haneros, when Aaron HaKohen would be commanded to light the candles. Ya'iru Shivas Haneros, he had to light up the candles. And Rashi explains it means that he had to cause that the candles should begin to rise up on their own. That's the beginning pasuk, and we'll see where that takes us. And then we said that there's two different types of wisdom of seichel. There's the seichel which is connected to the face, to the front, which is an influx of wisdom, and this influx of wisdom comes in like what we're going to see later today, in the form of something like Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh, divine spirit, means like when some type of wisdom comes into a person. I would use the word magic, but that's against the rules, right? like just out of the blue. It's a flow of divine energy that you didn't have to work for, right? Per se, you didn't have to study. You didn't have to like do a bunch of, step-by-step learning to get this knowledge. It's just given to you. So when we say someone has Ruach HaKodesh, it means they have access to some type of wisdom or information that is beyond the standard method of information, right? That's this thing of Shefa Eloki, a divine flow of wisdom. And then the standard type of wisdom that most of us are familiar with is the Achor, the one that comes from behind, which requires a lot of hakdamas. A lot of steps are involved in attaining this wisdom, right? Meaning you have to work, you have to learn, you have to study, you have to figure out, and maybe you're not ready. You have to become more mature, you have to expand your consciousness and your perspective and go through all these things, and then by the end of it, you have this wisdom, right? And we said that this aspect of Tnuas HaSeichel, the movement of the intellect, causes heat, right? And it causes us to warm up our hearts, to be inspired, to have hislavos, right? To have passion, right? So the quicker that this intellect moves with us, the quicker that the wisdom moves within us, the more it inspires our hearts, and the more we're fired up to serve the Ribono Shel Olam with this wisdom that we have, right? So the fast wisdom is quick moving, just like in the physical world. When things move fast, they create heat, right? And by the way, in a molecular level also, right? When molecules are moving fast, they're warm, things are warm, and when molecules are moving slow, things are cold. Obviously, we all know this from our high school science classes.
Sure we do.
I'm sure we remember it somewhere up there. Clearly, it's not the divine flow of wisdom that we might have wanted, but something's happening there, right? Yeah. Amen. So then we said the most important part, and we spent most of the lesson discussing this, and that is that the way that we attain these higher levels of wisdom is through really purifying the aspects of us that interface with the world and allow information and the world to enter into us or to come out from us, right? So meaning we have seven holes in our head, right? We have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and a mouth. And these things are kind of the way that we interact with the world, with everything.
Also look like the Menara.
And they look like, right. So these things all, the way we see the world, we take in information, right? We can use our eyes for good things, or we can use our eyes for bad things, right? We can use both ways, by the way, right? We can choose to allow certain things in. There's plenty of stuff that we shouldn't be seeing with our eyes that people have access to, that we never had access to in the past, right? With the internet. You could also use your eyes to be like a nosy, prying person. You could be like, peering through your neighbor's window to see what dirt you can get on them. You could be that kind of person with your eyes, right? A lot of ways you can use your eyes in a negative way, but we can use our eyes also. We can protect our eyes from seeing things that we shouldn't see, and we can use our eyes for fantastic things, for learning, for being able to. One of the best things, by the way, that we can use our eyes and our face for is, when you get to know someone like really well. If you really want to have a relationship with somebody, right, you have to be able to look them in the eyes. You have to be able to look them in the face. The face is, of course, called in Yiddish we call it the punim, right? But it's in Hebrew it's the panim. And that means, really, it means the inside. The face is what shows you what's inside, right? So when you look at a person, you can get a sense of them, right? Sometimes people get very uncomfortable. I'm staring at people right now on purpose, right? Sometimes people can get, no one here is getting uncomfortable. Sometimes people can get very uncomfortable if you have a real, look in their eyes. But what am I saying this for? Why am I rambling about this?
I just need to say, Rob, that
Yeah.
my view right now,
Yeah.
where my eyes are going,
Yeah.
is perfect.
Oh, you got the Sfarim, you got the,
I got
right?
the Rav, I
Yeah,
got the
okay.
class.
I feel the same way. But one thing, if you want to think about how you can positively use your eyes in a good way, is use it to really try to build good relationships with people, and really, try to develop a connection with somebody, right? The thing I always say about when you're outside in the world and shopping and stuff, and we meet people and we're like, yeah, hi, whatever. You don't talk to people. You don't have any connection with them. The cashiers at the store, right? I told you, I always tell my kids this: look a person in the eye and say their name. You'll change their day completely, right? Someone working in a business somewhere, they're just used to one person after the other, not paying any attention to them, nothing, right? If you look that person in the face and you say, hi, so and so, how are you doing? While looking at them, you'll see the person will change completely. All of a sudden they'll smile, they'll be, right? It's amazing. But you can use your eyes to try and develop an actual connection and relationship with the people around us of truth. Okay, if I keep doing this, we're not gonna cover any new ground now at all, right? But every single one of these parts of our intake system, right? The nose, the ears, and the mouth, and everything, it all is like this. And if we're able to purify ourselves in this way, then it changes our whole structure. It's called illuminating our own menorah, lighting up our own lights, right? And like Vered said, we explained last class that if you put the face back and you see you have the mouth, the nostrils, the eyes, and the ears, it's like the shape of the menorah from the temple. And in the temple, the menorah was like the place in the universe where divine wisdom comes out from. So the menorah signifies the relationship to ruchnius, spirituality, and divine wisdom. In order to receive it, we have to purify and sanctify our own menorah. And if you just think about it, I know this sounds all like sort of theoretical and kind of lofty, but if you just think about it for a few minutes, just imagine if one day you tried to only listen to good things. You tried to block out shtus and meaningless garbage, and certainly negative things, and lashon hara and all this stupid stuff, right? And you tried to only look at good things for one day, and you tried to only say good things, truthful, good, positive, building things, right? And you did mitzvahs with your eyes and your ears and your nose. And if you just did that one day, imagine, even for a few hours, imagine how different you feel, as opposed to if I just sat and like watched TV and, you know, talked to my buddy on the phone and talked about how all these other people are so terrible and what they do wrong and you know, just wasted all my time like this. You'd after a few hours only, you're a different person with a different experience and a different connection to life. Okay, I'll stop there. So this is the way to tune ourselves in to being in the situation to be able to receive a higher level of spirituality and divine wisdom when we focus ourselves in this way. Everybody with me? Okay, that's a good enough review. So, and this wisdom, the 7 parts of our 7 openings to our insides correspond to the 7 lights of the Menorah. Okay, let's take one more step now. So we're on page 256 in this book, and we're on letter Gimel in the Hebrew. Veshefa Eloki, this divine flow of wisdom, Hazois, hu bechinas Sukkah, is also connected to the concept of Sukkah. How do we see such a thing? Ki Sukkah hi bechinas shesacha beruach hakodesh. Because Sukkah is this aspect of sacha beruach hakodesh. So it's interesting. He doesn't explain this at all over here, but one of the names of Sarah Imenu, right, is Yiska, and the commentators explain why was she called Yiska. What's the shurish of Samech Chaf Hey? What does it mean? So the I think the Medrash says she'sachta beruach hakodesh, that she was able to see the lashon of Samech Chaf Hey. We know it as Sukkah, but it also means to have a certain type of vision, a certain type of experience, of perspective, of like a deep, sort of prophetic vision, is the word Sukkah. Shesacha beruach hakodesh. You could see with ruach hakodesh. Ki ruach hakodesh hu shefa eloki. Why? Because ruach hakodesh, as we explained before in the introduction, that's exactly what we're talking about when we're saying shefa eloki, this quick divine flow of wisdom. Ruach HaKodesh, right? We say it's like a little, sort of like prophecy, because it's as if a quick flow of divine wisdom is coming into a person. So, Shesacha Baruch HaKodesh, you see that Sukkah is connected to this concept of Shefa Eloki. It's the same thing. The Sukkah Azois, he ba al Yediah Shiva Anonim, and this type of vision, this Sukkah, we know that why do we put up a sukkah? Like, according to the simple explanation. Why do we put up a sukkah?
To remind us being
Shelter? Yeah.
To remind us being out in the desert.
To remind us what?
To be out in the desert.
Remind us being out in the desert? Good.
Agricultural workers, where they were in biblical times and booths, and
Yeah.
could see this.
Yes.
Right, very good.
I wanted to be in temporary.
Temporary? Okay, all very good. And so, what you're saying is very good. So the Torah says, you have to sit in sukkahs. Ki b'sukkahs hashavti es b'nei Yisrael. It says, Laman Yediah es dorasechem, that all your future generations should know. Ki b'sukkahs hashavti es b'nei Yisrael, that I put you guys in sukkahs. I gave you sukkahs when I took you out of Egypt. Right? So the sukkah is to remember those booths, sukkahs, that we dwelled in when we came out of Egypt, that Hashem gave us to protect us, which is everything that you guys are saying. But the Gemara asks, are we referring to, there's 2 sukkahs that we had back then. We had actual little wooden booths that we stayed in, right? Structures. But then there's also the divine protection that we receive from the clouds of glory, the Ananei Kavod, that surrounded the camp in the desert, right? So the Gemara asks, what are we referring to here? The Gemara doesn't ask, but there's a machlokes between Rashi and I think Tosfos. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about the regular huts, or are we talking about the Ananei Kavod? And the general consensus is, we're talking about the Ananei Kavod, the clouds of glory. That's what we're trying to remember, the divine protection that we had in the desert, right? And these Ananei Kavod, how many are there? if you think about it, because it was on top, around, all sides, up and down, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I think somehow the one on the inside also. Here we go, 1 second. Right, and there was one in front that was like the that thing on a train. I think it's called a cow catcher, right? They had like a cow catcher in front that would go ahead and remove the snakes and scorpions and bad guys and whatever was there. So the 7 clouds of glory, the 7 ananei kavod, are what the Sukkah is supposed to remind us of. So Sukkah, in its essence, is connected to these clouds of glory, the ananei kavod. Shiva ananim, these 7 clouds. Hainu, bechinas shiva saneres, which are also connected to this concept of the 7 candles. We got the 7 holes in our face, the 7 candles of the Menara. We have 6 up there only, right? And then we have the seven clouds of the Sukkah. All of these things as well. The Menorah, like we said, is the source of divine wisdom, and the Sukkah comes from this wording, this lashon of Sacha Baruch HaKodesh, to see with Shefa Eloki, to have visions of godly wisdom. Right? And it's called Sukkah, and it's 7 clouds. Shayadam ha'adam masig es panei hamenorah. It's through those 7 lights. That's how we're able to attain the face of the menorah. And we said that the face of the menorah refers to this divine wisdom. Hainu Sukkah. It's the same thing by Sukkah. Hainu Shefa Eloki. Menorah, Sukkah, and Shefa Eloki, Ruach HaKodesh. They're all one thing. Ruach HaKodesh nikra al shem hachachma. And Ruach HaKodesh is called Ruach HaKodesh to refer to Chachma, to wisdom. She Ruach Chachma haba mikodesh kayedua, because it's referred to as Ruach Chachma, a spirit of wisdom that comes from Kodesh, from holiness, as is known. And when we say as is known here, Reb Chaim over here brings in the commentary from the Zohar HaKadosh that explains that it's a spirit of holiness and it's a spirit of wisdom that comes from holiness. The Zohar HaKadosh talks about this, right? But Chachma, Ruach HaKodesh, Sukkah, Menorah, and the 7 openings of our face are all referring to the same thing. Guys with me? Yeah?
I have a question, Rob.
Yeah, what do you got?
In the desert, was there a sukkah for each family, or was there one for each tribe, or how did that work?
Right, so there were these 2 aspects. There were simple huts that everyone had on their own, each family.
Okay.
And then there was the clouds of glory.
Okay.
So 2 separate bechinas.
So my
Question is, which one are we trying to remember when we live in our sukkahs?
So my question
Yeah.
is, they needed a lot of wood, right? Where did they
Theoretically.
get wood from?
Also, the whole entire
From the desert.
a whole part of the what's it called, of the most of the Mishkan was made of wood also.
Yeah.
Where'd they get the wood from?
Right. Because they traveled
Right.
too.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a few answers to it, but
We're not gonna-
maybe not right now. Yeah. One is that this is one of the things that they brought with them out of Egypt, knowing that they were going to experience this.
But there was like millions of
From
them.
Jacob Avinu. He
Right.
brought it to Egypt.
Yeah, you hear this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brought it from Beersheba
Yeah.
to Egypt.
And they brought it out of Egypt.
And brought
Yeah.
it out.
They brought it out.
For the Mishkan.
Yeah. You hear?
Mishkan, but what about for all this?
Okay, let's go.
Ephron?
Yeah.
God.
Menorah was 7 branches, but it was one thing. When he took
Correct.
the gold, Aaron took it out. It was all. It came to in one piece.
One
like
piece,
seven
yeah.
people. So how does that connect with what you're talking about?
I mean, theoretically, standing on one foot, we said that the menorah itself represents. Here, let's go back. We'll see that. 1 second. Yeah, so like this, we said, Hein shivas haneres. This is quoting from the Tikkunei Zohar, I think. Ki pe utrei nukva. There's the mouth and the 2 nukva chotma and the 2 nostrils holes. Utrein einin and the 2 eyes. Utrein udnin and the 2 ears. Hein bechinas shivas haneres. Those are referring to the 7 lights of the menorah. Umenarta, the menorah itself. Da resha. This is referring to the entire head, right? Because that's the place that houses all of those things. Hainu hamoyach, which refers to the brain, the intellect. Upanei menorah, and the face of the menorah, the shining of the menorah. Hainu shefa eloki. That's the divine wisdom. But in the way that it's explained over here in the Tikkunei Zohar, is that the menorah itself, that one piece of the menorah, represents the person's intellect or brain. Let's go. This is what Chazal tell us in the Gemara in Sukkah. Okay. Menayin. She'ein mesachin ela b'dvar she'ein makabel tumah u'b'dvar she'gidula min ha'aretz. What's the source that we have that schach? Okay, so the stuff on top of the sukkah, right, is called schach, and there's two characteristics that the schach must have to be kosher. First of all, it has to be something that is not makabel tumah. That means it's something that is not susceptible to receive and retain spiritual impurity. For example, if you have a bowl, a vessel, something that's been fashioned by human hand to be used for something, that thing now can be makabel tumah. So if it would be, let's say, in a room with a dead body, that thing would be tameh, and it would have to be taken to a mikveh to be purified, right? However, there are certain things that are not makabel tumah. If they were in a room with a dead body, they would not receive tumah, right? So, for example, something that is not makabel tumah is just a simple piece of wood. If it hasn't been fashioned into anything yet, right? That's not makabel tumah. There's many other examples, but this is one of the characteristics. And the second characteristic is that it has to be gidula min aretz. It has to grow from the ground. Okay, so we see the things that we cover our sukkah with are like tree branches. They're not makabel tumah, and they grow from the ground. Are you with me? So the Gemara asks, what's the source? How do we know this? Where do we learn this from? Shenemar, and the Gemara explains, the pasuk says, "Ve'ed ya'aleh min ha'aretz," that there was an aid, a mist, clouds that rose up from the ground in Gan Eden, in the very beginning of creation. Right? So how do we see that this is connected to this? So the connection is made, and one of the reasons why we're commemorating the clouds of glory is because this pasuk is telling us the source of the concept of Sukkah. Just like the concept of Sukkah is to remember the clouds, we learn the characteristics of the schach from clouds that were in Gan Eden. And just like this mist that was in Gan Eden was not makabel tumah and grew from the ground, came up from the ground, so too schach has to be like this. I'll just tell you, this is a very unusual answer that this Gemara has, and it's very like spiritually interesting. It's one of those things that you can look, and if you look into the deeper sources of the Gemara, you'll see this is one of those places where it's clear that the Gemara is talking about something that's not so simple. Maybe there's Kabbalah involved, deeper things involved, right? Anyway, this is the answer. So we see that we learn the laws of Sukkah from something that's a mist, a cloud. Just like the mist from Gan Eden did not makabel tumah and grew up from the ground, so too schach. And this mist, this cloud, is referring to the Ananei Kavod, the clouds of glory. Which is also an aspect of holiness, the Ananei Kavod, and that those clouds that were in Gan Eden, Garden of Eden, Ugadilim min haaretz. So that's how we see kodesh. First of all, that it's holy, has to be kodesh. And Gedilim min haaretz, how do we see? What is the fact that it grew from the ground? What does that mean? So just like man was created from the ground, right? So too a man, and a man has to be a person of wisdom before he's going to receive wisdom. Like this, listen. This person who's going to receive this wisdom from Hashem, this Shefa Eloki, this Ruach Kodesh, divine flow of inspiration, has to be a chacham, has to be a wise person. Kadosh Baruch Hu yehev chachmasa lechakimin. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to wise people. You know how we say the rich keep getting richer, right? The wise get wiser. Well, let's see what that means. V'chinas, like the pasuk says in Shmos, v'leiv kol chacham leiv nasati chachma. Pasuk says right in Shmos, to the person who is wise of heart, I give wisdom to. Right? It also reminds me, people have the saying in English. I think every religion has the saying, it seems, right? From whatever they're from. Like something to the effect of, God helps those who help themselves. Uh-huh. You heard this before? Uh-huh. Everyone says this, right? From every religion. But in other words, you have to do something in order to receive help from heaven, right? Yeah. So we always say you have to do hishtadlus, you have to put in your effort. God didn't make the world that everything's perfect. He wants us to do our part. and then things happen. But so over here, what do you mean? How could it be? He gives wisdom to those who are wise. So someone who's born without seichel, they're doomed. That's it. They're done. The wise get wiser, and the I don't want to say mean things about it, but the not so wise get not so wiser.
Dumb and dumber.
I'm pointing beyond Jeff for sure. No question. No question, right?
That makes me think of Pirkei Avot.
Yeah.
Who is a wise man? One who learns from everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what does that mean? What do you mean? One who learns from everybody. What does it mean? So I'll tell you. I think what you're saying is good, and I'll tell you why I think that. Because what he's trying to say over here, and what he means to say, is that who's the wise person that's going to be able to receive wisdom? Is the person who puts himself in the situation, who wants to have wisdom, who desires wisdom. So what's that person going to do? They're going to say, you know what? I'm not going to spend 4 hours a night watching television, because that's just going to rot my brain. I'm not going to spend, my evening gossiping on the phone about everybody else and how they're all so bad, right? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my eyes for good things. I'm going to use my mouth for good things. I'm going to use my faculties in a way that I'm going to be able to connect to divine wisdom, right? That's going to be good for me. I'm going to be able to grow. I'm going to be able to become a better person. Right? So that person is the person who's wise. They don't have the wisdom yet, but they're wise already, in the sense that they want the right thing, they want wisdom, and they're gonna live their life in a way that they're gonna be able to receive it. Right? This is the person. So this is the person you're talking about, Jeff. Right? Someone who learns from everybody is someone whose eyes are open. And I'm not looking for a fight. My ego is not gonna be hurt by what someone else says. I want to hear what people say, and I want to be able to take wisdom from wherever I can. This is a wise person, even though they don't have the wisdom yet necessarily. They're in a wise mind frame that they're going to be able to receive, right? This is what a person needs. So this is what we're learning from the concept of Sukkah over here, right? We have to be first Kodesh, we have to be Mekadesh ourselves, and through that we become a wise person who now is going to merit to receive this wisdom, right? So we're building ourselves into, just like everything, just like this is our Torah Aleph moment for this particular one. We have to, right? If we want to be able to receive blessing and wisdom and spiritual connection, what do we have to do? Remember, the tap's always on. It's flowing. What do we have to do?
Drink.
We have to drink. We have to build a vessel. We have to build our kelim. We have to build our vessels to be able to receive what Hashem for sure wants to give us, right? And this is what we're talking about over here. Perfecting our vessels, turning ourselves into someone who could receive. Okay, let's keep going. What time are we at?
In English, I say one who will become wise is one who's teachable.
Coachable.
Coachable.
Right?
Teachable.
Coachable,
Okay.
teachable.
Okay, let's go. Dalet. V'sukkah hanal. And this sukkah that we're talking about over here, Hainu, Ruach HaKodesh. By the way, it's something I always like to say around Sukkah time about the sukkah. So everything that we said is good, right? Sukkah is from this lashon of Sacha Baruch HaKodesh, being able to see with sort of a godly vision. So what does that have to do with doing the, Sukkah? When we go outside and we eat and we have guests and we sing and whatever, right? What's the story? How do we? Where's the prophetic vision? Where does it come from, right? Got something, Michelle?
No, I was just going to say, you're showing an openness to hospitality to bring people in.
Oh, that's a good one.
And to listen to them.
Very good. And it's the holiday of guests, right? We have the Ushpizin that come in. We're bringing people in to listen to them. So one of the ways I explain it also is going along the way that you explained first, Michelle, which is really the Rashbam's view of the Sukkah, that, in the agricultural society, we would leave this. The Sukkah means you leave your place right in the fall time, the time of harvest, where you're gathering everything in and you're filling your storehouses, right? It's like the time when you're at the top of the top. Kochi v'otzim yadi, my handiwork, it's my strength that did all this. At that time, Hashem says, get out from there. Leave that stuff. Go make a little small place.
Modest booth.
Sit in there with no roof, right? That's where you have to sit. So one of the ways I like to think about it with this is that going out into the sukkah and doing it like this really provides you a perspective shift, right? Have you ever done something? Anybody here go out camping or hiking or anything like this? Right? So if you're stuck in the rat race, and you're stuck in your job, you're stuck in the materialism every day, and you're stuck to, I don't know, whatever people do, right? You're stuck in the, TV shows and things and routine and this and that, and right? So it's hard to break out of your mindset. But if you go and you spend, say, a few days or a week out in nature, without any devices, without any, without the regular way of cooking and the regular way of sleeping and everything, right? You break yourself out of that and you have a new perspective. You see, everyone comes back from such a camping trip with new ideas and with an idea that they want to change things a little bit, right? Why? Because you took yourself out of that way of living that you're so used to, and you've given yourself a new perspective, a new vision. So I think this is one of the things that the Sukkah does for us. We go out into the Sukkah, and it gives us, for that week, we do everything in the Sukkah. The halach is, Sukkah is supposed to be Teshvu Ke'ein Taduro. You're supposed to dwell in your Sukkah just like your regular dwelling in the house. You're supposed to sit in the Sukkah. You're supposed to sleep in the Sukkah. You're supposed to eat in the Sukkah. Everything that you would do in the house, you're supposed to do in the Sukkah. If you do it right, if you do Sukkah right, you have a total perspective shift. A total different perspective, vision. You have a new way of seeing the world, right? You have a Sacha Baruch HaKodesh, a different godly perspective that you didn't have before, right? That's the aspect of Sukkah, one way of seeing it. The Sukkah, Hanal, this is what we're talking about, which is Ruach HaKodesh. Hanal, Shefa Eloki, Hanal, divine flow. Hu Bechinas Makifin. It is an aspect of what we call Makifin. Makifin means like this. Okay. It's really a Kabbalistic term, but it's used in just general personal growth and sort of with wisdom also. But there's two forms of Kabbalistic light. There's Or Panimi and Or Makif. Inner light and surrounding light. So if you had to guess right now, show of hands, which one would you think is greater, the inner light or the surrounding light? Who says inner?
Depends on who.
Wow, inner or outer, eh?
Is inner light, Panimi, a greater light, or is Makif a greater light?
The inner one, if it's done right.
Inner?
I'm
Inner?
gonna go with outer.
You going with outer?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Inner, yeah.
Inner, we got a few inners, a few outers.
I'm torn.
I'm gonna answer it in a way that everybody's right, don't worry.
Oh,
Even though there's only one right way for what we're talking about, but we'll see how they're. Okay, so generally speaking, we think of Panimi as being greater because Panimi is the thing that comes inside, and in a certain way, from certain perspectives in Kabbalah, Panimi is higher. But generally speaking,
which one's that?
inner. But the general concept of a vessel, right? In Kabbalah we have Oiris and Kalim, lights and vessels to hold them, right? Of a Keli is something that can hold and limit. So the Makif is the light that surrounds, and it's whatever's Makif means it's too great to go inside. It's too big, too bright, right? So it stays and hovers above, and whatever can go into that vessel goes into that vessel, and it's limited, sort of filtered, so it can be used by the level below it. But the Makif represents something that's a little beyond me. It's above me. So it could be in knowledge, in wisdom, right? That there's such a thing as Makif. And we all have aspects that are Panimi to us and aspects that are Makif to us, right? And that changes as we grow, as we go through our lives and we become wiser and we learn more material. It also very much applies also to our general. It's not wisdom, it's not knowledge, but our general ability to understand life, to understand the world, and our own personal growth, right? Meaning, someone who starts to learn, these deep concepts and these aspects that Rabbi Nachman teaches us about how to grow and about how to face challenges in life. In the beginning, a person is like scattered, and is very so anxious and scattered, and just like things don't make sense, right? But as a person learns and develops emunah, they grow and grow and grow and change and change and change until there's something that person can understand now. Say a few years later, that before they had no hope. Before they were just a mess, right? And now, a few years later, without even really thinking about it, they can understand patterns. They can understand the way that challenges are meant to give us strength, are meant to build us, right? And it's a whole different perspective. And then you see life in a different way. You've now taken that makif that was above you before, you didn't get, you didn't understand. It's now become part of you. And now you're ready to and as soon as the makif becomes internal, you now have a new makif. You have a new level that's above you that you can grow to, right? You always have panimi and makif, and we're always trying to, Rabbi Nachman tells us, to go from level to level, to make that makif my panimi and have a new makif. To make the next makif my panimi and have a new makif, right? And we can all think about, I'm sure everybody can think about, where have I experienced this? Right? It can also happen in learning as well, that, there's something interestingly about learning, people who learn real Kabbalah, right? So it's something that they say about Kabbalah, that people can try to learn it, and it doesn't work. They try, and they put the effort into it. I'm talking about the real Kabbalah, right? Like the Svarim of the Arizal.
We weren't supposed to.
No, we learned Kabbalah. Yeah, for sure. That can be another class. Do we learn Kabbalah or not? Yes, we do. There are some restrictions that some people hold of, but and there's some wisdom that has to be there, right? But the learning of Kabbalah, the real Kabbalistic svarim of the Arizal, for example, right? So if a person starts to learn it, and they're not ready for it, it just doesn't go in. It doesn't work. They try, and it doesn't work until at the right time they'll open the same book, and it'll go. Right? Sometimes there's a makif that we're just not ready for, and it has to stay that level above me. I'm not ready for it yet, right? So in every aspect of our lives, we have makif and panimi, things that are slightly above us and slightly below us, and we have to yearn to draw those makifin into us. Okay? Shaseichel hazeh hu gadol ad me'od. This seichel that's a makif, wisdom that's above me, is tremendously great. Ad she'ein hamoyach until to the point where that my own intellect cannot handle it, and it won't go in. I can't take it. Elahu makif esaresh. Rather, it surrounds my head. It's a bechirah of keser in the Kabbalistic language. Okay, here we go now. Like we see, there's many deep types of wisdom. That it's not within human intellectual capacity to understand it really clearly. Like many confusing things that we don't get. For example, Yediah v'Bechirah, the concept of Yediah and Bechirah. Yediah and Bechirah. So this concept is the apparent contradiction between the foreknowledge of God, the fact that God knows everything that ever happened, is happening, and will happen, right? And the fact that we have free will, free choice. How could it be? If God knows everything that's going to happen in the future already, that means it's written in stone already.
Did we touch on that last?
We did touch on this on Monday, yeah. Right? That's the hashgacha pratis that we're talking about. And how could it be? Did it? Right? There's many ways that people look at this. Many people have written deep things on this to try and understand it. We saw from Rav Tzadok HaKohen, he has a certain way of looking at it. There's the Rambam, maybe Rav Tzadok, who explains it from different perspectives. Right? That the top-down perspective, Hashem sees everything and sees it as if it all happens or is happening all at the same time, beyond time. But from our perspective, from the bottom up, we don't have that same clarity and perspective. So we see it, our perspective is of free will. Hashem's perspective is not. Which sorta is an answer, but it's still really not an answer. Because it still means that from that place of beyond time, right, where time is finished already, if you could say such a thing, right, it has to happen that way. It's going to be that way. So how can I have free will over here? Hashem already knows. Hashem knows the beginning to end. It's done already. So how could I have had any free choice? Right? How could it be? So there's varying ways to understand this and to look into it very, very deep. And some people go from one extreme to the other. There's another view that we really barely have any free will whatsoever. Much less free will than we think we have. Right? Just a very fine point of free will. Right? To all kinds of different views of this. Rabbi Tatz, everybody knows Rabbi Tatz here? Mekiva Tatz? Rabbi Tatz is like...
Australia or England?
South Africa, but yeah.
South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
So Rabbi Tatz is an amazing, amazing rabbi, and he has many, many books and shiurim on very, very deep things. And he speaks in a very clear, awesome way, right? He wrote an entire book on this concept. A whole book just on this concept of free will, and it's a bit complicated. It's not like his normal books. Point being, this is a very deep thing, and this can sometimes get people really upset, and can really throw people for a loop. Sometimes it can distance people from Judaism, right? Sometimes it can just be frustrating, and sometimes people just choose to ignore it, right? So what do you think Rabbi Nachman says about this concept? Just curious. What do you think Rabbi Nachman says about this concept? Anyone have any input? What would Rabbi Nachman say about this? I'll tell you, when I saw what Rabbi Nachman said about this, I was very happy about it. If that's a hint.
You don't really have to.
I'm going to go with every action that a human takes will either bring them closer to Hashem or further away from Hashem, and that action is our choice at that very second in time, and then it's gone.
Okay. Good word. I agree with you. It's nice.
But
I guess I'm asking more big picture. How do we approach it? Do we understand it? How do we understand how the two can exist together?
okay,
What did Rabbi Nachman say? Anyway, we won't, unless someone has a really good thing they want to say, we'll...
I think
And I know what Rav Arush says about it,
Yeah, let's hear.
which would be based about,
Eva
which
speaking.
would probably most likely be based on Rabbi Nachman.
Yeah,
That our free will
yeah.
is to have the ratzon to do Hashem's will.
Okay, very good.
It's
Yeah.
the will to do His will, and that's about all we've got.
Right. Okay, very good. Thanks for chiming in, Avra.
Baruch Hashem.
All right.
What is ratzam? Ratzam.
Ratzon means the will, like the desire or will.
Okay.
Right? So Rabbi Nachman says like this, very quick and simple. Let's see what the next few sentences, and then I'll tell you what he says in another place. So he says like this. Yediah, we understand at least what the problem is. The human intellect cannot understand this. Cannot. This type of wisdom, this type of intellect, knowledge, is a makif. It doesn't go in to our inner intellect. It hovers above us. It's something that we can't quite attain. And our inner intellect, our actual inner intellect, receives its chiyus, its life force, its vitality from this makif. That's a big statement, which we're going to get to in a second. Let's just go back. Rabbi Nachman says, this type of understanding, Yediah and Bechirah, you can't get. In another place, I think in Likutei Moharan, he says very clearly that this is a type of intellect that we can't understand. We will never understand until after Mashiach comes and Malei ha'oretz de'as Hashem kamayim ha'machasam al-yam, right? When there's a new paradigm shift in the way that we experience knowledge, in the way that we experience the world around us, right? And an expanded consciousness. A whole different form of consciousness that we don't have right now, right? We can't get it until then. Right now, we're trying to understand, just to like put it in one way of looking at it. We we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu as infinite. He's called Ein Sof, infinite, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ein Sof, infinite, right? And we, of course, are finite. We live in a finite world. Everything around us has an end. It has a finish. It's finite, right? Our intellect is finite, and it's therefore, like, technically, if we understand us as being finite and Kadosh Baruch Hu as being infinite, it's technically impossible for us to have infinite intellect because we're finite. We can't have it. We can't. There's a certain type of knowledge that just, it's impossible for us to have, right? It's referred to sometimes as Das Elyon, this elevated consciousness that, this is what Adam HaRishon wanted to have, and he wasn't supposed to have, right? And it's something that is just beyond us now, right? And we're working towards it, and we have a piece of infinite in us that can sort of like get a little bit of connection to it, but we just can't understand it. So Rabbi Nachman says, you know what? This Yediah and Bechirah thing, you can't understand it, and for now, it's just simple. You know what Bechirah means? You know what free will means? Says Rabbi Nachman, I'm basically quoting, it's a slight paraphrase, but if you want to do something, do it. And if you don't want, don't do it. That's what free will means. That's our connection to free will at the moment. Because we can't possibly understand this concept of Yediah and Bechirah. It's a paradox. And in the way Rabbi Tat speaks about it, he says it's a paradox, and it's a paradox that us Jews love. We're happy about this paradox, right? It's the paradox of infinite and finite. It's just that's what it's all about. It's the way it's supposed to be. So don't go too far into it. So Rabbi Nachman now is bringing this as an example of a type of intellect that's beyond us, that's above us. It's a makif, right? And he's bringing as an example something that we can't get. It's above us, right? But he does say, and he brings an important point over here, that this makif, this thing that's above us, this tremendous seichel that's up there that we can't quite grasp, it is what gives vitality to our inner intellect. Our even though we don't grasp it, we do have a connection to it, and it is up there, and it is somehow radiating into us some type of connection to it, whether it's something of a longing to connect, to understand, to get a deeper connection really to that which is above us, right? It does something to us there. I just want to read from some of Reb Chaim's commentary here that I thought was very good. He says like this, to repeat, each person should seek to make himself worthy of the transcendent intellect. However, no matter what level he might attain, he will never be able to understand everything. There will always be a need for him to believe in that which he cannot understand. And he must therefore be very careful to never lose his faith. Meaning, this is really where Emunah takes over. We don't need Emunah. I don't need Emunah to see that my buddy Rafi is here with me right now. I know he's here. I don't need Emunah for this, right? But something a little bit beyond that. If he wasn't here and he was still in Israel, and so someone said to me, oh, Rafi's in Israel, and he's really happy right now. I would say, okay, I don't know, I have Emunah. I believe that Rafi is in Israel and he's very happy. Emunah, because he's not here in front of my face. If I know something, I don't need to have Emunah in it, right? So it's important that we have strong Emunah because there's always going to be these things that are a makif to us that we don't quite get, we don't quite have the knowledge for. That's where it takes over. He must believe that there are answers for all his questions, though at present for him, they are not in the transcendent intellect. Not that he is totally disconnected and separate from this intellect. As explained, the makif gives vitality to the panimi. Therefore, the makif, the answer he has yet to comprehend, also gives him vitality. And this means that the means through which he draws this vitality is emunah. Thus, the answers to his questions, though still beyond him, give him the necessary impetus and strength to strive even higher, until such a time that he can arrive at the answer itself. So we connect to this concept of makif in a few ways. Right? It's that there's something above us that's drawing us up, even though we don't quite grasp it yet. We have a connection to it. And then we connect to it through the concept of emunah also. Right? Just like we go through our life and the difficulties that we have that we don't quite understand. What do we say? We say, what is Hashem giving me this challenge for? I know that it's for my good somehow. I don't quite get it yet, but I know that somehow I'm going to come out the other end stronger, on a better path, maybe in a different circumstance. And then very often we go through life and we get to the end of a challenge and we look back and we say, wow, I didn't understand what I was going through. But now that I'm here, I see, wow, I never would have got here if I didn't go through those challenges, right? That is sort of like, at the end, looking back and having brought that makif that I had there into my inner intellect and understanding it and seeing where it took me, right? You hear? Bringing the makif into the panimi. Woo! 1 second. What time is it? Okay, we'll do a tiny bit more, and then we're going to try to finish up. V'da, shezeh ikar koyach ha-bechira. This is the main power of our free will. Kol zman ha-seichel ein kol kach gadol lahavin ha-yediah va-bechira. When we don't have this tremendous intellect to be able to understand how the foresight of Hashem can work together with free will, azai koyach ha-bechira al-makoymai. That's when the Bechirah is in the place it's supposed to be. That's how Hashem made the world. That's what we understand free will is that there's good things and bad things, and I don't know everything. That's the place where I'm able to have free will. I don't see the end game. I don't see the end picture. That's how I have free will. When that makif is a makif, it's beyond me, that's when free will works. Right? That's how it's supposed to work. Because it's in our hands now to choose life or the opposite. But when this tremendous makif is going to come inside, and then the human intellect is going to be tremendously expanded. And it's going to be revealed to humankind how these two things work together. The beyond time knowledge of Hashem and the free will of people. Then we won't have Bechirah anymore. We won't have free will anymore. It'll be gone. Through this tremendous new intellect that we will have developed, we'll be leaving the confines of being human, in a certain sense, and we'll go up to the realm of being a malach, like an angel. We'll be beyond our earthly confines in the sense, in an intellectual way, right? We won't be here anymore in the confusing world where we don't see the end game and we don't have a choice between good and bad, because it's all going to be we're going to have such an expanded consciousness. Then there will be no more free will. This is the main force of Bechirah. This that we don't know, we can't understand that. That's actually what gives us Bechirah. That's what gives us free will. So Hashem made it that this is the way the world is now, is that we don't see the end game, and we don't have an above time view. We don't have that perspective that Rav Tzadok talked about, like looking down and seeing everything that happens, right? That's how we have Bechirah. This is what Chazal say, Tzadikim yoshvim batrasehem biroshehem. Oh, this is so awesome. Okay, do you guys remember Pesach? In the Birchas Hamazon on Pesach, there's a special thing that we say, and it's we say Yom Shekuloi Toiv, Yom Shekula Oirech, Yom Tzadikim Yoshvim Va'atrasehem Biroshehem. The day that the tzadikim are sitting, and their crowns are on their heads. Right? So let's see if he's going to say it here. Al Roshehem Hutzrach Lemer. It should have said their crowns are Al Roshehem, are on their heads, but it doesn't say that. It says that their crowns are Bi Roshehem, are in their heads. What does that mean? Makif is Keser. Keser means crown. That makif, that intellectual thing above, is going to now be Bi Roshehem, not Al Roshehem. It's going to be in their heads. Right? This is what it's talking about. Yom Shekula Toiv, Yom Shekula Arach. That's talking about after Mashiach comes. Yom Sha'atrasehem Biroshehem. That makif, that big makif, is now going to be Panimi. We're going to have this tremendous expanded consciousness, which is the main revelation. Like Mashiach comes, everyone thinks it's going to be great. You know, all the airlines are going to get together and fly us to Israel, and you know they're going to bring us. We're going to finally have kosher sirloin somehow. I don't know. Whatever. Everyone's excited for all these things to happen, right? But the Navi tells us that Gala Ami Mibli Das, that Galus means to be exiled, means without Das. it's the gullus that we experience, the exile that we experience, is an exile from clarity and from being able to see the purpose of everything, being able to see clearly what's going on in the world. We don't have das, we don't have this consciousness. The main revelation of Mashiach, the main thing that we want, is not all the materialistic things, and not even the freedom, right? The main thing that we want is this expanded consciousness that we're going to experience then, right? So this is what it's talking about, that thing that we say by Pesach. Tzadikim yoshvim, shayeshiva hu moira al heder ha-bechirah. Yoshvim, to sit, refers to a lack of Bechirah, an absence of Bechirah. Kamoi, Yoshev Hashamayim, like we say that the Malachim or Yoshev Hashamayim are sitting in heaven. Shehu Moira al Heder Hishtanus. That refers to sitting, means I'm stationary. Nothing changes. A Malach doesn't say, oh, today I want to do this. Today I want to do this. An angel does its job, sits in its spot, right? Does what it's told, that's it. Kiatanua Moira al Hishtanus, Meratzain al Ratzain. What does it mean to have movement? From one rutzin to another, one desire to another. Today I'm going to do this, so I'm going over here. Tomorrow I want to do this, so I'm going to go over there. My will, my free will, takes me to different places. I choose one thing today, one thing tomorrow, and I'm moving. Being stationary refers to a lack of free will, an absence of free will. This is because their crowns, hainu hamakifim, which is what we're talking about, makifin, kamoi, like the pasuk says in Shmuel, Shaul va'anashav oitrim el David. That over there it says that Shaul and his people surrounded David. Oitrim over here, otrim means like to sort of surround, like a cloud. Bir roshehem, but it's not going to be al roshehem. It's going to be bir roshehem, v'lei al roshehem, in their heads. Hainu hamakifim yikansu b'toicha moichin lifnim. The makif, the supernal knowledge that we're not able to understand right now, is going to enter in to our brains, into our intellect. V'az yikansu kol hasichlios shaloi hayayachol lahavin oisam, and all of the intellects, the knowledges, the intellects, I guess is a good word, are going to enter in, the ones that we couldn't understand before, Yikansulifim, are going to go inside, into our brains, into our intellect. Yediah, and we'll know and we'll grasp these things. Then we're going to go from the confines of being like human, and we're going to go up to the realm of being like an angel. And we'll have no more Bechirah. So this is why they also say that, I'm saying it in just like plain words, right? That in the time after Mashiach comes, there can be no more converts. No one can convert to Judaism anymore, right? And after Mashiach comes, the way that Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz explained it one time is that it's like you can't really develop any more merit. Right? Because everything's too clear. There's no more free will after Mashiach comes, right? So you got to get the job done. You got to already be holding by the time that comes. No one can convert because it's converting. It requires there to be free will, right? You're done already. You're done. The way he explained it, I don't know. This is something that stuck with me. I heard this like 20 years ago already, but is that if you're on a path, and we say a Jew has to always be moving. We can't be standing still. For Jew, it's like what do we call it? The going up a down escalator, right? If you're running up a down escalator, so you're going to move up slowly. But if you stop moving, what happens? You don't just pause there and hang out. You go down, right? A Jew has to always be moving. We have to always be working, right? And so we're going up. We're like the stock market, right? We go up, and then what happens? Oh, no, we fall. But then we get back up, and we keep going, and we fall again. Through our whole lives, we're always up and down. We're always aliyah and yerida. But we're always going up. We're always trying to get working higher and higher, like we hope the stock market continues to go, right? Right? And then, not like the way Bitcoin's been going for the last little while, right? But so we're going up, right? And then, so the way he explained it is that we're going to get to time of Mashiach, and where was your ark, right? Yeah. If you were flatlining, so you're flatlining, you're done. If you're going up, you're going to keep going up and up and up and up and up and up. I don't know where that means. I don't know where he got it from. It's just a nice explanation, right? So yeah, this is this is what we're talking about. Just to wrap up, and we're at an hour now. Let's just recap that just like we have to build our ability to connect to higher knowledge and to higher spiritual experience through sanctifying, purifying our 7 openings, our eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, and using them to put the right things out into the world and use them to bring only the right things in from the world. Through doing that, we light up our 7 candles of the Menorah, right? And similarly, it's connected to the 7 clouds of the Sukkah, because the Sukkah really refers to this Ruach HaKodesh, Sacha b'Ruach HaKodesh, to see with a divine type of wisdom, a higher level wisdom, right? So that's the aspect of Sukkah. Menorah and Sukkah all refer to drawing in a higher level of intellectual and spiritual existence. And we see that connected to Sukkah and connected to this is the concept of makif. This knowledge is called a makif. It's something that hovers above us. It's too big for us right now. We can't bring it in. And so we have to work to be able to draw our makif down into our panimi. And there's certain makifim, says Rabbi Nachman, that humankind is not ready for. And we're not going to get it until the right time comes, until Mashiach comes. Right? So, and to wrap up, how do we relate to it? We want to always be working to draw the next makif, the next intellect that's above us, down into ourselves, right? To whatever level we can. We want to keep striving. And while we're doing that, have emunah that we're going to get there one day, and have emunah that the challenges that we face are there to help us grow and to help us be able to get to the level where we can bring these makifin in, right? And for now, we're going to leave the Yediah and Bechirah argument to the side, according to Rabbi Nachman's advice, right? And that's where we'll hold off today. Any questions or comments from anybody? No? Okay, everybody. Have a totally amazing, fantastic week. I have some good news that's also not that great news. You can give me a mazel tov that my 2 twins are both graduating from grade 8 today and moving to high school this week, coming week. Thank you. And it happens to be, unfortunately, that their graduating ceremonies, my daughter's is on Monday night and my son's is on Wednesday night.
So we watch. It's
And-
because we're going to be away.
Oh, you're gonna be away also? So
I'm gonna be here anyway.
I tried to say to my wife, maybe, what time is it at? Maybe I can just leave right at the end. Maybe I can sneak out early. And my wife's like, your children are graduating. You have to go. So she's right, obviously.
Yes.
Like always, she's right. And so I'm not going to be able to do the classes next week. I apologize. So
Just remember, always the woman light.
yeah. See, this is a makif that you and I have already brought inside. It's Panimi Bas. Yeah.
You remember that,
Yeah.
you're gonna be successful.
Wisdom, divine wisdom.
Don't argue.
Shafa Eloki. Okay. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in a week and a half.